These are some swarm catchers. Check it out. I practice natural beekeeping, and these have caught, this is actually a purchased one from Dr. Leo Sharoskin. You can see there's propolis in here. This was used last year. You can see the outline of where the frame would have lined up on there. Very nice. This one, a friend of mine, built out of scraps. And I'm teaching him all about bees. And I don't know if you can see this little V in here. This is some old ductwork that was trash that he had laying around. And so for very, very cheap, he built these boxes. But I want to introduce to you a third option. That's right, a 5-gallon bucket. You don't want to build yourself this. You can even catch bees in a 5-gallon bucket. There are several determinations in a swarm catcher, but most importantly, they'll allow you to catch bees that are local to your area that have successfully overwintered. In the United States, which is a very big problem, we have a lot of bees coming from our southern states. They're usually Italian strain bees, and they're raised in Georgia and Florida. Well, that's great for companies who have to sell you bees and you buy them every year. I just got back from Italy. Stay tuned for the tomato episode, by the way. The climate was beautiful. It was the Mediterranean. Well, guess what? I'm freezing right now because it's about 50 degrees outside in April in Missouri. We have harsher winter climates. You go further north than us into your Minnesotas, they're still buying a lot of Italian-style bees from your Georgia locations. Well, that can be a conflict where every year you try to overwinter your bees and they all die out. Alternate to that, catch local bees that have local hardiness to your pests, your environment. Dr. Leo talks about a time that he was seeing bees living in rock cracks out in Bozeman, Montana. In Montana, there were local bees suited to that climate, and so those local beekeepers, it would behoove them to use those bees instead of packaged bees purchased from who knows where. They may not be able to make it in that climate. They might make it through one season, winter comes, boom, they're gone. Local bees to your area, no humans ever got to them. Check them for pests. They didn't do any of the things that keep them alive, which means that selective pressures help you pick really good bees. Here's how you can catch your own. One of the biggest features of this is that it is a 7-frame hive. Now, if you look into Dr. Seeley's work, you're gonna see that bees prefer to move into something that is between 40 and 70 liters of space on the inside. So your standard 5-gallon bucket is actually pretty dang close to what bees are looking for. Now, I'm not actually gonna use this to catch bees, and I'm gonna get into that here in a second. But this is actually my honey bucket. And if I really wanted to, I could hang this in a tree, pop this door open and bait it, which you'll see me bait these here in a little bit. And that right there is a perfectly good hive. Now, the reason I don't like to catch swarms in a 5-gallon bucket is because the bees are gonna attach the comb every which direction. And then that's gonna make it more difficult to get out. Now, if you are in a third world country, or you don't really care about that, or you have a different style of practicing bees, you just want the swarm, go ahead and catch it. This is for when you're in a pinch. But if you have some basic tools, even hand tools, you can build yourself a swarm catcher. There are plenty of links online. You can check the description for some plans on swarm catchers below. All right now guys, so check this out. Here we have that 7-frame system that we were talking about, right? Here is old comb. Now, 2 things that bees are predominantly looking for. The first thing they're looking for is they're looking for a structure that is 40 to 70 liters. Now, this is a 7-frame hive. So here are my layers frames, right? All right, and you can put up to 7 of them in the hive. Now I'm gonna show you guys some cool tips and tricks around that. But outside of the size, the #1 determining factor of will this hive catch bees outside of a lure is there the presence of existing comb in there. Now here's something crazy. This hive died over the winter because they ran out of resources. You know that because the bees are all clustered in the ball at the top. So they ate the resources, started at the bottom, ate, till they got to the top. Once they got to the top, they ran out of resources, they starved to death. This was a very late frame hive. Now, I'm gonna take this guy, maybe shake some of the bees out outside. Let's see here. Some will come out. Not very many will come out. That's okay though. Take this guy, put it in here. There's one frame. Now, the reason I'm not just taking these, you see how this is a frame, but there's weird passages. I'm not sure how well you can tell on camera, but maybe you can tell in this box. These are like this, right? And so I don't want to be putting that in there. Now, this is an interesting hive because everything seems okay how I want the shape of the comb to be until down there. So I might take that out. But the number one determination of will a beehive, a swarm, select one of these boxes is the presence of existing comb or wax. You can take these waxed foundations, and that's what I'm gonna bait my hives with. And I'm gonna have at least one of these have existing comb. And don't worry about all the dead bees in here. Once a hive moves in, the bees, as they set up shop, will clean all of this out. These are extremely hygienic. You see one is set up there, 2, 3, and 4 more. Now, let's talk about this. Once this is filled up, you're gonna put this here, and then we're gonna hang it outside. We're gonna do that in a second. But let me talk to you about this framed foundation. Now, a lot of the time, you're gonna start with a blank foundation like this, a blank frame, and it's called a frameless foundation. This is a frameless foundation, and this is a framed foundation. Where do you get this little piece from wax from? So you buy it and you put it in there. I'm gonna show you how to attach this. A frameless foundation, you can also just get away with having a strip here. Now, I don't like that for a few reasons, and here is a perfect example. This is a strip foundation that was on this last year, and it got so hot before bees got in there that it melted and slid down. And then bees did move in, and then it was just this weird thing, and probably contributed to why everything's so crazy down here, right? Because once the bees see something that started, they're gonna assume that other bees did it on purpose. And that is not so great. So, a quick way to add foundation to your frames is as follows. You're gonna get an old 12-volt battery. Here's a 12-volt battery from a UPS, uninterrupted power supply. These are just some cables I had in my garage. They don't need to be fancy like this, all right? Mine just happen to be, but they don't have to be. I'm gonna show you a tip and trick. We're gonna put foundation on here right now. Here's that strip of foundation. Now, I'm gonna show you exactly how this ended up happening and why I don't like this method. So the first thing is that you can take this, weave it in and out, right? And so you have kind of over, under, over, under, over, under. And so really it's making a slight S curve, and then you can press this in, right? And right now it's kind of cooler in the day, and it will kind of stay there. But what happened to this piece is exactly that happened, but it got warm. And as it got warm, something moved, and this thing started to slide, 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 melt, and be all weird. So in order to avoid that, we're actually gonna melt it in. And it's very, very simple. You can do this with an old power supply, old laptop cord, whatever. You just need some DC voltage. I'm gonna grab, again, a full frame. Now, why am I grabbing a full frame, right? Instead of the quarter frame. Now, I'm generally a very frugal person, but the main reason I'm doing that, okay, again, if we wanted to, we can weave this in and out. The main reason I'm doing this instead of a small strip is because I used this to catch the swarm catcher last year. I did only strips, and what ended up happening is they cross-combed. So what does cross-combing mean? Well, the frames are in here this way, and you can see with these foundations, the bees will think that other bees have made these foundations intentionally, and therefore they'll just draw it out. This gives them a pattern to go off of. When I had the very small, thin ones, only the strips were only at the top. Once they got below that, they started cross-combing. So I had comb going in between all crazy like, just like this one, right? Except for the comb, instead of just being attached to the single frame, would go across multiple frames. So when I went to transfer this, all 7 of these were cross-combed together, and that led to a very bad time. And it contributed to this hive here's death, I think, because when I moved them, I destroyed a lot of resources to get them out of this into the real hive. In order to avoid that this year, I'm gonna show you guys a trick. All right, so you already saw the weave through method, which I don't like. You're just gonna take this guy here. This is the frame. Again, there's links to this in the description, and I'll show you this here. Nothing crazy, very, very straightforward. I'm gonna take these ends, red and black. I'm gonna attach them to red. All right, make sure these ends are separated here, and black. Okay, that's simple. Now, be very careful not to touch these because they'll spark, and I'll come over here and show you what to do. Okay, again, this is super simple. Instead of weaving these in and out, in and out, in and out, I'm gonna set the whole thing on top. You're gonna see that this single piece of wire, this wire is strung like this, it then goes down, it comes to the top, loops back down, comes to this side, loops back, so it's one piece of wire. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use that to our advantage. I'm using a 12-volt battery, but you don't have to use a 12-volt battery. You could use a laptop power system if you want. But you're gonna take this here, I'm gonna go at the bottoms. Remember, this goes this way and connects here. So if I touch these two wires right here, it'll heat up and start to melt. Boom. So heat it up, just took a few seconds. These two just heat up. Boom, you see it? Same thing with these two. Just heats up and starts to melt. There you go. Not sure if you could see those coming into view or not. I'm gonna hit these two one more time. Okay? And then you'll be very careful when you set these down to disconnect them. All right, now they're safe. I want you to see that this is now embedded. So what happened before where this slumped down, actually can't happen, right? Again, this was at the top. Now, just for funsies, I'm going to show you one more. If you don't want to take my advice, I'm going to show you one more with that strip. So here's the strip we were talking about. I do not particularly like using just a strip, but if you are going to use just a strip, I suggest that you go ahead and fully melt this on instead of like before where it was weaved through. Boom, you see that? It just melts that guy right into place. It makes that wire hot. Same thing, 1, 2, 3. That wax will heat up, the wire will heat up, the wax will want to melt through it, and then you just kind of hold it in place. Now this is actually embedded. It's a lot less likely to melt and go down. It's not impossible, but it is a lot less likely to. I'll do one more here because this didn't quite do it. All right, and there you have it. Once you have these frames set up, you're gonna finish setting this guy up here. Boom. And right there. 6 frames right there. With the 6 frame hive, you're gonna close that up and you can go hang this in a tree now. But there's one last thing you need. All right, guys, there's 2 more things that we gotta talk about as far as products go. The first one is lemongrass oil and these slow release tubes, right? This is from Dr. Shiroskin. Again, you can get this from his website. It's in the comments below. What you do is take one of these slow release tubes, take an eyedropper that comes with it, and this is just lemongrass oil essential oils. Nothing fancy, just lemongrass oil essential oils. You're just gonna dip in, and you're gonna fill this tube half full. All right. Once it's half full, you squirt this out, make sure it's clean. Put that away. Just gonna close this tube up. And this is a slow release scent tube. I'm gonna close this back up. I'm not gonna need it. I'm gonna take this zip tie here. All right, so you're gonna pull this out. All right, this is the one we just did. I'm gonna take this this lemongrass oil dropper. I'm gonna set it right here towards the bottom. I'm gonna zip tie it on to this metal rod. Then I'm going to cut this tail off. Okay. Once this tail is cut off, slip this down in here. Your swarm catcher is 100% baited. The other product is called Swarm Commander, all right? It's kind of pricey. There's a link to this down below, but it works very well. It's also very lemongrassy. For this, it works a little different. That slow release bait's gonna be good enough, but if you wanna give yourself extra insurance or use this instead, you squirt one on top and you do one inside the hive. One squirt, and I try to hit the wall, the back wall. Set it in, boom, there you go. You have a 100% baited hive at this point in time. Swarm trap. All right guys, now what if you wanted to use the 5-gallon bucket? Again, it's about the right size. Again, the reason I don't like to use it, let me take all this stuff out, is it's really not that bad, but the number one determining factor is, will bees move into it? Is there existing comb or wax? Well, you can bait this hive with your, whatever, the Swarm Commander if you want. You could also scrap bits of wax and attach it in here, and you can hang it this way, right, with the honey pour spout. You can hang it this way and attach something here. But again, I don't like to do that, but it is possible. It is the correct size and dimensions, right? You guys can kind of see this is very similar in size to this, right? It's a little bit wider in volume. It sticks out over the edge, but that is another option. You can use a cardboard box. You don't have to use anything, but I'm going to be using this swarm catcher, but I have one more trick up my sleeve that I'm going to show you guys. It's going to sidestep all the things that you do while you are going to be baiting one of these hives out. All right, so now I've rebaited this swarm catcher. And where do you want to put it? Well, you're going to want to put it about 9 feet, 3 meters, to 12 feet, 4 meters off the ground. And you're going to want to put it in an obvious place. Like for instance, right here, there's a tree that's by itself in the middle of the field. That would be a perfect example. What about this RV behind me? This RV might be a perfect place. Just take this guy right here, and we're going to set it right on top of the RV. But I have a better idea. But rather than hang it in a tree or hang it on top of the RV, I'm going to put it on top of something that every good homestead should have. And that's right, an M35A2. It's a multi-fuel engine. This guy behind me here, 1968, designed to fight the Russians, can run off of diesel, vodka, gasoline, vegetable oil, motor oil, automatic transmission fluid. If it's combustible, you can throw it in there and to things like 6 to 10 grand. But I have a few of them, right? I got 2 5-tons in the middle. You guys might remember Ginger here. Ginger, who I drove the other channel about finances. I drove Ginger through a house. You can see that video on the screen. But I'm gonna put it on top of Bob here. Bob is a Bob Deuce and a half. It's gonna go on top of that because it's got a nice flat perch. Let's get to it. Oh, geez. Oh my gosh. All right. I am freaked out by heights. Okay. All right. Now I've got a metal top here. This is not going to stay by itself because it can shake around. I want to make sure this is nice and level. This is pretty level. I'm going to put several big rocks on here. A lot of people will ratchet strap this down if they're in trees. Again, I'm very high up, about 12 feet off the ground. If I fall, it's very dangerous. So I'm going to get down, but I'm going to set some rocks up here. And this swarm trap is set and ready to catch some bees. Again, after it's set and good to go, if I do catch something, even though my hive is right there, I've got to take this guy 2 to 5 miles away, leave it for 2 weeks, so the foragers can reacclimate to that area. They forget all the landmarks around here. Then I'm going to come back over here. Then 2 weeks after that, I'm going to bring the swarm catcher back Once it's brought back, then it can go directly into the hive, no problems. But this guy's set, on to the next one. Here we are in front of the thing that started it all, the no work, no water garden, and I've been putting it off even though you guys have been asking me forever. I've officially got merch. You guys can check it out below. This is a big thank you for the first sub 10,000 subscribers. We're making a limited run of maybe 200 shirts. Once they're gone forever, but don't be alarmed. We have other shirts that will keep always. This is just a limited run as a thank you for you. If you buy it, we'll never have any more after this. And that is just special bragging rights. Is because of your support, I can keep running my channel. And guys, if you like to learn more or just watch me fail and make stuff up and, you know, be humiliated on camera, go right ahead, like, subscribe, check it out. Back to the video, guys. Woo! Ba-ba-da